most people looking to the weekend, especially for Ohio State football, it's maybe a little bit of a snooze. So Matt McCoy joins me. Matt, what's the spread on the game this week?
It is up to 40.
40 flat?
Opened at, I believe, 37.5.
Okay.
And it is risen to a 40-point spread now.
40 points, but there are people that are excited for this weekend. Among them, Buckeye Bleeder, a guy who says if they ever threaten St. John's Arena, he will chain himself to it and not allow that to happen. He bleeds the scarlet and gray. He loves Ohio State, but today we welcome in Tony White. And Tony, my question first is, which team are you rooting for at the Shoe this weekend?
Well, I will be at Ohio Stadium wearing Miami Red Hawk gear for the Miami Red Hawks. So the first time, my many times in Ohio Stadium rooting for Ohio State, I will be this time rooting for the Miami Red Hawks to take down my beloved Ohio State Buckeyes.
Please share with the good audience why that is.
Well, my oldest son, Donovan, is a scholarship football player for the Miami Red Hawks playing on the offensive line.
Well
family comes before Ohio State.
So blood family
in the
beats
stadium screaming for Ohio State blood on Saturday.
So Donovan's coach at Miami, Chuck Martin, in a moment of complete honesty, said this week that this is like playing a team at lunch, only they get the first 85 picks, talking about the challenge Miami has against Ohio State. So what pick is Donovan, 86?
Yeah, well, let's put it this way, Matthew. Nobody's going to put that up in the Miami locker room as inspirational talk in advance of the Ohio State game. That might be like reverse psychology by Chuck Martin, because I know some of the players saw that and they're like, really? Okay,
yeah.
Let's go out there and prove maybe we're like 74 instead of 86. Let's go out there and try and establish ourselves as better than perhaps what everybody thinks, maybe even our coach. So that. Maybe that's reverse psychology. I don't know, but that is a very, very honest point to be making in advance of game day. When you got to go out there and you got to put your best foot forward.
Well, that's it. So, I mean, you're clearly watching Miami football. Give us some highlights. What's going on there, and why will you, Tony White, be in the stadium screaming for them, not us?
Well, first of all, my son plays for them, so it's just I love Ohio State, but that something's got to give when your son rolls out there. Look, Miami is a team. They have almost no chance. I mean, there's almost no chance. If you watch the Avengers Endgame movie where Doctor Strange looks at all the ways they can beat Thanos, and he says, "Well, I looked at 14 million ways, and there's only one way I've ever won." That's pretty much the scenario here. I mean, it's like 14 million possibilities, and there's only one way Ohio State wins this game. So that's where the starting point is. But this Miami team, look, they've been a freshman quarterback who started his first game at Iowa. This kid has shown a lot of moxie. I watched him in the spring. I watched him in some of the practices leading the spring, and it wasn't a pretty picture on some of those practices and some of those spring games. But he has really stepped forward and is making throws that some juniors and seniors don't make. So he's got some arm talent, he's got some moxie, he's got some mental presence. What he does when the big boys start coming at him, I don't know. That's a whole different scenario. But I'll tell you what, Miami held up well against Iowa and had Iowa down early, and was really taking it to Iowa early. They just couldn't hang with Iowa over the stretch of the fourth quarter. And so they showed some intensity. They showed the ability to play with a Big Ten level team. The problem is that Ohio State's not a Big Ten level team. Ohio State is an uber Big Ten level team, and Miami doesn't have the depth and the talent in the front lines to be able to handle Ohio State. And the question is the only real question is how long will it be before everybody's going, okay, well, I wonder if I can still get in the varsity club.
In some ways, Tony, by the way, Tony mentioned their quarterback. It's Brett Gabbert, and football fans may recognize that last name because Blaine Gabbert star quarterback at Missouri, played in the NFL. This is his younger brother, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so the kid has arm talent. I'm telling you, I've seen him make throws that you go, whoa,
Yeah.
that's a nice throw. And I'm not sure I've seen many quarterbacks make that throw. He's making it as a freshman, with 2 or 3 starts under his belt. So the kid, like I said, the kid's got moxie and the kid's got arm talent. The question is, can we keep him upright long enough to make some of those throws?
Yeah.
And, Ohio State brings it pretty hard with those 11 guys.
Yeah, so that's a last name you might recognize. Obviously, White, Donovan White, who, by the way, number 68. You'll recognize that. But they also have a tight end, Luke Mayock. Now, Mike Mayock was the longtime analyst for the NFL Network, draft analyst, who is now the general manager of the Oakland Raiders. Luke Mayock is his nephew.
Cool.
So
as you can tell, as you can see, the recruiting strategy at Miami is to recruit people associated with famous people. Mayock, Gabbert, White, the royalty of
Right down the line.
Sports world. Yeah.
Absolutely, just brilliant. Tony White, our guest, talking Ohio State, Miami football. And here's the thing, Tony. I mean, you don't have to be, super deep in the weeds on football, but I mean, when you watch Cincinnati, Miami go, and Cincinnati wins that one 35-13, and then, hey, didn't the Buckeyes play Cincinnati? Yes, and they won that one 42-0. So, I mean, do you feel like you're going to be there the whole game? Is this, moral victory if they keep Ohio State under 70? I mean, is there any number in your mind?
Well, keeping the game, beating the line, beating the Vegas line is always a way to test how well you played.
Okay.
And, I would say this. Miami did not beat the Vegas line either against Iowa or UC. However, early in the game, Miami was winning both those games. And I'm not talking 4 minutes into the game, they're winning the game. I'm talking into the second quarter of both Iowa and UC. I mean, Miami had UC down 10-0 in the second quarter. And, so they were playing with UC. The problem is that both those teams shifted gears and said, okay, it's time for us to get focused here and get moving on. And they shifted gears, and Miami was not able to shift gears and stay with them, and they just accelerated away. And so, that's the problem. Ohio State doesn't shift gears. They come in at a high gear. They come in playing at the very high gear, and you've got to match that. And, we all got to be honest, Miami can't match that. So the question is, can they really stay within the line? And I frankly thought, and I was, talking to my son, a few weeks ago, I said, you realize the opening line's going to be 44. So, I'm happy that we're just creeping up, from the high 30s to around 40.
Okay. There you go.
That's the 3-4 more points that we can make to stay under that line.
Now, in all seriousness, for Donovan, is this a cool week for him? I mean, he played high school football at Gahanna. Actually, Donovan was a teammate and captain at Gahanna with Jonathan Cooper of the Buckeyes. So, there's that. Is this cool for him to get to play in Ohio Stadium?
Oh, yes. And we've been talking about this for a year and a half since it got on the schedule. And, I've been on that field when I was president of RCO and doing stuff for the Hall of Fame and being on the field when you're out there at halftime and all those people are looking at you and you realize you got, 100,000 people with their eyes on you. That's a little bit nerve-wracking just to be standing out there, let alone playing out there. And so he has been, and frankly, the whole Miami team, they're excited to come into Ohio Stadium and play in one of the legendary spots of college football. And, my only advice to him was try not to throw up on yourself because you are going, you're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. You're coming out there and it is going to be completely different.
Completely.
And everybody's got to say, all right, we're going to give ourselves 45 seconds to be amazed at what we're about to see. And then we're going to lace them up extra tight, and we're going to go out there and see what we can do.
Well, we wish Donovan nothing but the best. Proud Papa, you enjoy it as well. And we'll say go Bucks. That's Tony White talking this week's contest for the Buckeyes here on News Radio 610 WTVN.